Thanks for joining us today. It's a little bit quieter one. A few people might join in the next few minutes. That's fine. But welcome to session 2 of Elliot Kay's confidence workshop. Today he's going to be talking about how we talk internally, how we talk externally, language you use. So looking forward to it. Quick bit of housekeeping. We are going to be recording this one, so it will be available for you to watch back afterwards. And also be available for the other attendees who registered, who maybe not be able to join, to be able to watch back afterwards. So I'm going to hand over to Elliot and I'll leave him with you.
Brilliant. Hi, Mark. Hi, Felicity. Hello, everyone. So today's going to be an interesting session. It's going to kind of divide into 3 sections. We're going to look at how we process information, which may affect our confidence. So you might know some of this already, so it'll be a good reminder. But if not, you'll learn something new. Then I'm going to look at a structure to give you for those, because it was also about how we conduct meetings and things like that. And after, we're going to talk a little bit about language. So hopefully you'll get lots of value. If you have any questions as well, please do ask, put them in the chat or send them to me and I'll answer them. For the next 40 odd minutes that we have remaining, I'd like to be of service as much as I possibly can to everybody on this call. I'd love to know what you do, where you are in the world. So obviously you're part of Agency Nomics, so I know you're an agency in some capacity, but when you put name, where you are, I mean, obviously see your name of the business and what you specialize in, what you do, so I can understand a bit more who's in the room, who's my audience as well, because I'd love to know and I'm really nosy like that, so I always ask where people are because I just like to know. Let's bring up the slide in the meantime. There we go, and I'll watch everything pile in on the chat and we'll get going. Tell you a bit about me and shortly. Who is this guy? So Felicity, were you at my last one? Yeah, you are. Great. I remember you. And Mark, were you at my last one? Nope. Okay. Good stuff. So Felicity, Leapfrog PR, B2B and B2C comms, mainly in food. Good stuff. We've got Eric, Stephen. Obviously, I know Dan as well. Let's see. Too Many Dreams. We're a marketing strategy and creative agency for emerging tech brands. Oh, I like it. Tech brands, yeah. I love the tech space. It's fabulous. When I go do talks there, such an energy. Like, just get their bit between the teeth and they really go for it. Love that energy with tech companies. Wildlife Media, Comms and Content. Fabulous. And we'll just wait for Mark and we'll get going. And if you also are happy to put this in the chat, what would you say is your current challenge around it? I know I did that last time as well, because I'd like to know. But if not, that's fine. If you're here to listen and learn, that's okay as well, by the way. Cool. So very quickly, we started way back in 2011 in a stinky pub in Kentish Town in London with sticky floors and smelly floorboards and really bad furniture. Anyone ever been to a pub like that? Bad furniture, sticky floors, stinky. Yeah, that's where we started. And good stuff. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for sharing that. And then I'm happy to say, there we go, Mark. Big Fork, a digital marketing agency, website, fabulous. And I'm happy to say that pre-pandemic we did move out of stinky pubs into much nicer establishments. And obviously the last 2, confidence over pricing. Good. Okay, let's address that. Last 2 years obviously has been mainly online, but now things are opening up. I'm speaking a lot more. I'm speaking the Excel Centre on the 8th and 9th. Well, I'm actually going to be there on the 8th. I'm not staying for the 9th. Lots more interesting things now. The world is opening up from a speaking point of view. But what has been very interesting that I've noticed, maybe you've noticed it yourselves, is there has been a bit of a trend that people now moving away from the screen to off screen now have discovered they have slight jolts with their confidence, because we've got lots to hide behind when we're on screen, and now people are stepping back onto the stage. They're finding they have to almost do like a confidence shower and refresh themselves confidence wise as well. So I don't know if you find that with that. So we work with a variety of companies. We're partnered with the amazing Agency Nomics as well. Confidence speaking at events, presenting and negotiating prices. Fabulous. We work with accelerators. We work with corporates. The heart of everything we do is small business owners and entrepreneurs, because we believe that you will change the world. Like I believe I'm going to change the world. I don't think many of us believe that politicians will anymore change the world. So that's why we like working with entrepreneurs and business owners who are out there using their voices for good. And this is the team. It's a very small team right now. Anik lives in Australia. She's actually stepped back, and there's 3 others involved in the team. But I'm just hiring a new member of the team for our new service, which is called Gig Getters, which I'm very excited about. I've been doing this over a decade. I work with a lot of various companies and entrepreneurs globally. I do this day in, day out. Before this, I ran 2 other businesses successfully. And then three years ago, I stepped into Speaker Express full time to run it. The original plan pre-pandemic was to launch cities across the world. I went and raised investment for that. And then the pandemic the pandemic happened. And then I didn't do that. Not yet. It's still on the strategy. So I've written 5 books, 6 and 7 probably come out this year. I write for magazines as well when it comes to public speaking, being more giraffe, standing above the rest, sticking your neck out. That's what I do my talks on as well. I also work at a Pinterest Trust, and I have a podcast for those of you who want to follow more public speaking stuff called the Public Speaking Expert Podcast. I do that with my partner in crime, Jose. It's very fun, very bantery, but very informative at the same time as well. So we work, as well as creative agencies, we work with authors, we work with people who want to get on TV, we work with property investors. I'm working now with former Olympians and people like that to really help them get onto the stage as well, but also get speaking opportunities. So let's dive into this, right? The first section I really want to talk about, and I think it's very important, especially, Felicity, you mentioned imposter syndrome. Some of you mentioned stuff around pricing, confidence in speaking. I think it's really important to understand, if we're going to look at this, that we have to look at 3 components and how we process information and how it affects our confidence. I want to say that right now, also, please, there's no right or wrong here. Where you are is perfect. There's no better than worse. There's no they're ahead, I'm behind. None of that. I just want to go through this, and some of you might know this. Has anyone done NLP, neuro-linguistic programming here? You all look very lost. So, okay, so Stephen has, Mark hasn't, Felicity hasn't. Okay, I don't know about Eric. Okay, so it's okay if you have or haven't. I'm just going to give you what they call their model of the world, how we process information. Because for me, this is the greatest, gives us the greatest insight to why we might be showing up in a certain way, what might be going on for us, right? When we're looking at speaking, confidence, pitching, selling, there's several things at play all at once. There's our beliefs around it, our empowering and disempowering beliefs. Then our values, right? What we hold dear, and I'll break that up for you in a minute. And of course, what is our big why? For example, now a lot of people, let's say, Felicity, you mentioned imposter syndrome, right? Was it around pricing as well? Let me ask you this. If you had to find £10,000 for an operation in a very short space of time, because it would be life-saving, do you think you'll be able to do that?
Yes.
Perfect. Right. So what we really want to learn to do is find that level of belief when we're selling, or when we're pitching, or when we're speaking, right? I'm not saying it's an overnight fix, by the way, but because inherently there's a big why attached to that, and I went extreme on purpose, I'm aware of that. It's life and death. It has to happen, right? There's a big why attached to that. Therefore, your belief and your motivating factors had shifted to be able to go, yes, with absolute certainty. What we want to learn to do is to shift that kind of level of belief into our everyday speaking, selling, pitching, asking for our value, right? Which is why it's important we understand our beliefs and value system and how they play a part on our behavior. Hi, Eric. It's nice to see you. Looking good. Looking very good. Are you standing up? Oh, nice. Good stuff. So I just want to go through this, and for you to really go and reflect, right? It's not going to be, we won't be able to do a great deal in depth today, but I want you to understand that. Okay. So here's what happened. So I'm going to use Felicity again, if that's okay. So Felicity talked about pricing. So it comes to that moment where Felicity has to ask for the money, right? So if we look at the modality, and I'll explain all of this, what happens is there's an external event, there's an external factor going on right now for Felicity, and she's confronted by that moment where she has to put pricing on the table. And this goes for everybody, right? I think everybody at some point has gone through this. So what happens is then we distort, generalize, and delete, right? We distort our frame of reality. we generalize the experience and we delete what doesn't serve us. Our brain will delete out because we can't process all this information. We can process 150 bits of information a second versus 2 million that surround us. So what we delete and generalize and distort is what we believe, and our value system is what helps us delete and generalize. So Felicity will go and go, there's an event where she has to ask for pricing. So internally, she's got a belief system. There's an imposter syndrome going on. Who am I to ask for this money? They're not going to pay it to anyone, because those are the belief systems. So now everything in her mind is distorting, deleting, and generalizing to meet those beliefs. Can you see? While let's say Abby might be in the same meeting with the same person, but because Abby has other beliefs around asking for money, she'll go, it's 10 grand, please. And a whole internal representation is serving towards her going, I'm okay with asking with that, because her belief system is different. I'm just using an example, right? So I want you to understand this is not a long process. This goes on continuously every second, right? And I wanted you to understand that, because wherever you have issues with your confidence, challenge with your confidence, I think, Eric, you mentioned speaking, presenting, this is what you would go through. So if we can shift the belief system to build a belief system that serves us in a different way, then we'll distort, generalize, delete in a very different way. Again, Eric might be asked to speak at the mecca of creative agency conferences, right? Whatever that might be. And so what happened is that event will go through all of these filters, and he will reach one conclusion. Might get a bit nervous. He might say yes, but go through turmoil of things going on. I can go wrong. I'll forget things. Because the belief systems are popping up. Versus, let's say, Stephen. And he'll go, Stephen, do you want to speak at the mecca of a creative agency conference? And Stephen will go, yep. Right? Because Stephen has a different belief system. It's not right or wrong. I just want you to understand that. So this is why I thought it's very important, if we're going to look at confidence in life, how does confidence show up for us? So when we process, it goes through the time and space. Now let's again use an example. I'll go on Mark this time. The Mark had a bad experience at some point with speaking, with pitching, with asking for money, right? Let's say he stood up at school ensemble. I'm not saying he did, by the way, Mark. He said something, everybody laughed, right? That moment, our brain took a picture of that experience, how it felt, how it smelt, the whole feeling around, took a picture of it and stored it. So when anything that looks like that comes in, the brain goes, be careful, alarm system going off. You could be laughed at again. You're going to be a fool again. So the beliefs around, I will be laughed at, pop up. And that's to protect us. Are you all with me so far, by the way, people? How are we doing? Yeah, Helen, I know you joined a bit late. Helen Brown, you joined a bit late, but hopefully you'll catch up. So if we then have, as a result of that, Mark will then build a belief system around speaking. I get laughed at, I'll get judged, and then our brain is continuously filtering for that. You see? So what I would invite you to do after today, and I believe one of the other partners is far. This is his expertise. What's his name, Abby, the guy that specializes in this? It's the other partner that does a lot of this work.
Sorry, the NLP stuff. Daryl Scott.
Yeah, Daryl Scott. This is really his kind of, if you want to dive deep into this, that's his space. I invite you to really sit and reflect, go, what belief systems are at play when it comes to the situations you mentioned, when it came to the challenges you all put up there. And be very honest. There's no right or wrong, and there's no shame. It's just understanding your belief system. And we always need to upgrade our belief system around it, and our values, which play a big part in this. So what happens is we get that question, boom, we filter through time and space. So, or also known as your meta programming, which is basically your software of your brain that filters everything. So we associate it immediately to time and space, that something good or bad could happen. Then think of the language you speak around that experience. So again, because it's so specific, I'll go with Felicity. Felicity said about imposter syndrome. So there's a language going on in your mind. There's something you're saying to yourself. So again, becoming aware of that. Do we then quickly, is there a memory of the time you asked and you felt like an imposter, right? So this is going instantly. Then you make immediate decision. Oh, I'll get found out. Then your attitude towards that shifts. I'm an imposter. Can you see how this all builds, people? and how this might affect our confidence. Now, again, and then your beliefs and values kick in, and that's how we're distorting. So then, of course, what will happen then, it'll have an impact on our physiology, on how we feel, and of course, how we're processing the information. So then next time Eric has that question of, do you want to speak? He immediately feels terrible because immediately it's recalled this horrible feeling. And, if I ask you all to think of Marmite, give me a thumbs up if you're like, yay, Marmite, give me a thumbs down if you're nay, Marmite. You got, okay, real mix. Okay, cool, we got a few. Now, some of you immediately would see an image. Some of you get a taste. And some of you immediately went, in your face, right? Because immediately your belief around is Marmite good or not kicked in. And it immediately, within a second, affected your facial expression, your physiology. Like Stephen really smiled. He's like, yeah, Marmite, right? It's the same with our beliefs. It's the same. And because that's happening so quickly, it's becoming very aware of it. Our physiology changed. So the reason I thought it's really important to kind of introduce this concept is if we can sit there and work out what beliefs are disempowering us, and empowering, by the way, we can then learn to move them across or rebuild beliefs. Now, this whole session isn't about rebuilding beliefs, but I really wanted to give an insight on how you process information. If you want to find out more information about this particular, it's the NLP model of communication. If you want to make note of that and you wanted to dive into it more. So I just wanted to understand where it might be coming from. So all we need to do, actually, I did a whole video about imposter syndrome, Felicity, on TikTok, and actually, I think I've released on LinkedIn as well. How you deal with, there's 5 different types of imposter syndrome. I don't know if you know that. There's the typical I'll be found out, like, I'll be found out. There's, I don't know if I can remember right now, you've got your kind of, your overachiever. By the way, if you're an overachiever, that can be a sign of imposter syndrome. If you like, you more and more, because you never want to feel like you're not good enough. There's the genius, the one that has to learn continuously. No, I just need to do this course. I need to read that book. Let me just listen to this podcast. No, I just need to qualify in this. Does anyone know someone like that? Then there's the superhero, right? Which is the one like, no, I can do this on my own. I don't need any help. I'm so strong. I'm so powerful. Don't help me. I can't remember the 5th one. So again, if it might be worth exploring. Now, if you listen to someone like Tony Robbins, he says imposter syndrome is BS. Right? Everybody's scared of something. Everybody's afraid of doing something and failing, except someone's termed an imposter syndrome to it. I'm not agreeing with Tony Robbins, by the way. But I just want to offer you different, that people have different opinions about it. And you have to find what works for you. If it helps any of you to go, I have imposter syndrome, therefore I can deal with it, then that's a good thing, because you've been able to now deal with it. But if you're like, no, I don't believe in it, you don't believe in it, that's fine. Let's look at what belief systems we can build towards helping you speak better, pitch better, get better paid. Yeah? I think I'm being an imposter here, as it wasn't me. It was, sorry, Stephen said it. I apologize then, Felicity. But there we go. Sorry. You are the imposter. You took all the credit, but I was just using as example anyway. Thanks for correcting me. But there we go. But does that make sense though? I mean, Stephen, and for everybody, like why I wanted to go through this first. So that moment that Stephen, or I think Eric, you mentioned about when you're asked to speak, stuff comes up for you. It was you, right? Or am I going crazy? It's Mark. There we go. I'll get this right. Well, it was very fleeting, in fairness to me, right? And I mean, what Helen said, oh my God, what Helen said was just mind-blowing. Well, Helen, basically what this refers to is I asked everybody what their challenge was, and everybody typed it in. That's what I'm talking about, right? So where I'm going with, so next time, Mark, you're asked to present or something that brings this up, it's about going, okay, what are these beliefs? What is it about these, and and there's ways you can do all kinds of processes to rebuild them so you have empowering beliefs, so you get excited about being on stage. And one of the ways to do that is by really understanding our value system, right? Our value systems are unique as our handprints, right? They are as unique. There we go. Peace we wrote on imposter. There we go. Eric has one himself. Yay. There we go. Did you do the 5 different archetypes as well? Well, you see. No, I'm kidding. Right.
The next piece.
That's the next one. Okay. Check out my TikTok. Grab the video, Values are as unique as our handprints, right? And what people underestimate is how much they drive our behavior as well as influence our beliefs. Now, what is in our highest values, we always have time, money, space, and energy for. Always, without fail. For example, Stephen finishes the day at work. He's really, really tired. And someone says to him, Stephen, do you fancy going to the cinema? Now, if Stephen loves entertainment, if entertainment is in his highest value, he'll be like, yes, let's do it. Suddenly has that energy, and it doesn't matter that he's tired anymore. But if he didn't value that, if it wasn't in his highest value, he'd be like, no, I'm really tired, I don't want to do it. Have you ever had that conversation with someone and they're like, oh, I don't have any money, I'm really broke, and then they're like, do you want to go on holiday? Like, yeah, sure, where are we going? And suddenly they've got like 500 quid and they've paid the deposit. Have you ever come across that? All that is, all that is a preferential that spoke to their highest values. So at the time you said A, and they were like, no, I'm tired, I don't have time. And you went, oh, holiday. B, yes, because something in their highest values, they have time, money, space, and energy for. So again, if we're reflecting on our beliefs, we also need to find where we have time, money, space, and energy for. And that's what ties to our big why. That's what I was talking about, the big why at the beginning, that if you had to find £10,000 to save someone's life, you would, because there's a big why attached to it. So if we transfer that to our businesses, speaking and pitching, right? Then when we know our big why, and it doesn't have to be a Gandhi type big why, by the way, and we understand the value system, time, money, space, energy. By the way, watch Dr. John DeMartini speak about values if you never have. Dr. John DeMartini, as in the drink. Again, so insightful to understand how it drives our behavior. So, for example, for Mark, what we need to do is attribute why speaking and presenting will serve his highest values. If it serves his highest values, Mark will say yes to every speaking opportunity. Guaranteed. Versus it being a dread. Versus it being fearful. Right? And again, understanding all these components is what leads to confidence. What leads us to say yes and not have a problem with issue and all this stuff. This is why I really wanted to go fairly deep into it today, because I think it's very important. So I'm going to move on now, because again, we'll do a whole session just on this. But you guys gain some insight, some little light bulb, some understanding. I think Eric's next piece might be about what influenced confidence, as you've done for Imposter Syndrome. I have experienced crippling imposter syndrome since launching my business. That's one of the biggest challenges, losing belief in what you're really good at and every day. Yeah. Thanks for the honesty. Again, if I can help with anybody, have a conversation with you to even to steer you to the right person to support you, do reach out. Okay. This is not something I do this. I'm cognitive behavioral hypnotherapy trained. I can do this. I choose not to. So, but if you wanted me to help you find someone that can help you with imposter syndrome, I know people in my circle as well. Okay. So there'll be a link at the end where you can just reach out to me. I do work with some people on confidence. I've worked with people, for example, their confidence to pitch and raise investment. It depends on the level. If there's a certain level, like, okay, this needs more than a few coping strategies, then I will pass you on. So if anyone, feel free to reach out to me if you need any help with that. Have I got you thinking, though? I think you all look like you're deep in thought and going, what's the meaning of life now? I think I need to go meditate for 6 months. So everybody's going to leave the agency nomics, Abby, because of me, and they're all going to go to temples to meditate for 6 months and come back and be like, I found the meaning of life. Well, what is it? It's Marmite. There we go. Cool. Let's keep going. So there's a reminder as well. So just really look at what are the beliefs. I mean, I put selling here, right? But selling, I mean, what are the obvious ones and what are the deep-rooted ones? So the obvious ones like, I don't like speaking. Okay, but what is behind that? What is I don't like speaking? What's the belief behind that? So really looking at that, right? Values. So what is your internal importance systems? The time, space, money, energy. Where have you always got that? How can you tie that into speaking, pitching, presenting so it serves your highest values, therefore it changes your belief system? Again, you must watch John DeMartini speak about that. And then why? What's the bigger purpose for all of this? And when you tie this all together, you'll find your confidence immediately elevates, right? Doesn't mean you won't get nervous. Doesn't mean you won't get wrong. But this is a big thing. I think you all probably know Simon Sinek start with why, right? So if you tie it with all of that, you become a very confident person. So for me, my big why is really simple. Be a great husband, be a great father, and serve entrepreneurs globally. And if you look at everything I do, even with my value systems, my operational stuff, that's what gives me the confidence, right? Of course, I've been knocked here or there. We all have. We're all business owners. But to get back up, it's about reattaching it to serving my big why, right? To get back up, it's about finding how I'm serving my values. To get back up, I look at what belief is at play. And I recommend this book highly, 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 if you haven't already. Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap. All of you. Helen, for you, OMG, my game changer, right? Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap. There's an audiobook about it as well. That's what I'm listening to when I go running along the cliffs in Devon. Honestly, game changer. I recommend it to everybody. It just is so good. I'd love to know how you get on with it. Yeah. So that's kind of the processing side. So some of the stuff I know that we wanted to cover today is also how do we do stuff at work and things like that. So I just want to give you a very simple structure that can help you conduct meetings, pitch things at work to your team, but also it's a structure that works beyond here at work as well. So this is a very simple structure, and by all means take a screenshot. I can send you the slides, Abby, if you want, or Dan, whoever I would send the slides to. And I've taught this to a lot of tech companies. I've taught this to, they use this in the Future Leaders Network when they were pitching to Parliament to get mental health on the agenda. This has become an official structure for a lot of companies because it's so good and so effective. In fact, when I work with a couple of people from Agency Nomics, this is one of the structures I taught them to deliver internal meetings. Why? Keeps you to the point. It's clear. The other thing, please remember this, by the way, for anybody that struggles with confidence, structure breeds confidence. When you have a structure, you know where you're going, right? If you're committed to a process, you kind of know where you're going to end up, whether you actually end up there. But if you follow the process, you're more likely to get there. It's a bit like directions going down the street. So let me talk you through this structure quickly, because also I'm aware of time, and I have to take my wife out. It is her birthday, so if I'm late, I'll be in trouble. So can't have that. So feel free, again, if you want to go dive deeper into structure, I'm happy to talk anyone through this. So let's say Stephen's running a meeting. First of all, what I'd say is have a time you're going to work to and stick to it. So it'd be like, step num is what do we know to be true? So you would go with like, we know that right now the situation with the company is X. And what we're really looking for is XYZ, and therefore we're going to be addressing XYZ, right? The problems we've been facing or the challenges with XYZ is 1, 2, 3. Do you see how we go with that? Obviously, you'll probably go more in depth than the little tiny nuggets I'm doing there, right? So the way we propose to move forwards, and that's when you give the company strategy or the vision or whatever you want to share to enroll the team into it, which will result in da. Now, I know it sounds really simple, right? It does. It is. That's the whole idea. Simple is easy. For example, when I worked with one of the guys from Agency Nomics, he was doing a thing to his team, and he's talking about the expansion of the team and the growing of the team, right? I won't use names for confidentiality, but he was like, we know that the business has grown massively over the last 18 months, and with growth comes a different set of challenges. But what I want to reassure everybody here, that while we're growing, everybody's position will remain intact. There's a lot of reassurance to begin with. The challenge we've been facing is how do we maintain our high-paying clients with our new emerging clients, as well as our loyalty clients? How do we manage them while maintaining revenue? Do you see how it works? So what we've suggested we'll do is we put these strategies in place. We're going to split the company out into 2 different and he gave the whole strategy and the whole vision, and then which results in blah, 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 blah. So I wanted to show you that structure because I think it's highly effective. And if you do conduct, it's good, by the way, this is also a good structure for a talk. Do any of you do like 60-second elevator pitches still that does anyone still go out and do that? No one here? Okay, good. You can still use it for that, right? If you wanted. So you can use it for a very clear, succinct way. Or this can be a talk for a structure, but it's definitely a good structure to follow if you're doing a 20, 30 minute, even a 10-minute kind of weekly meeting for your team. Yeah? Good? So far so good? Taking a picture of it? Feel free to. I'm happy also to send you this if you want it as well. It's also in my book, Speak Influence Sell, if you want to get hold of that. It's also in Be More Giraffe, my latest one, which you can't quite see, which is it's actually more of a sketchbook, but it's got loads of quotes and things in there and this structure in there. So there you go. How to stand out, speak, and be more giraffe. Love it. Cool. Let's keep going. So yeah, the other things, of course, to conducting effective meetings. I know that was part of the event as well. Is know your outcome, keep to the point, work to a time frame, and stick to it. Practice, practice, practice. That's the other thing. Whenever I work with MDs or CEOs or people who've put creative agencies, right? Where's the chat? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. There's always a typo. Thanks for no, honestly, I'm dyslexic, and unless my wife looks at the slides, there's always a typo. But I'll take note of that. Good. Thank you for pointing that out. But I just wanted to see if anyone was paying attention. Really, that's why I put it on there. What was I saying there? Yeah, the worst thing is people don't practice their meetings, right? So even though you're talking to internal staff, just take a few minutes, go through it, because remember. Because I've worked with lots of people that really struggle with internal meetings, confidence-wise. And the first question I ask them is, well, how often do you practice? So I don't. Well, of course you're going to be unconfident. If I ask you to drive a car, having not learned to drive a car, you wouldn't feel confident. It's the same. Practice, practice, practice. Okay? And any other typos, please don't point them out, because then I can clean them up for next time. Right, last bit I want to go through as well. Helen, have you been to mine before? I can't remember. No, you haven't. That's why you're not succeeding. What can I say? No, I'm joking. Only people that show up to these meetings succeed, right? Isn't that right, Abby? Okay, cool. So the last one I just want to talk about is language, right? The other element that will give you confidence when you're pitching, selling, speaking is really understanding the person, the people that you're pitching to. For example, recently I had to pitch to a really big celebrity hypnotherapist. I mean, if you look at that person's website, big names, testimonials. And what I did is I asked a little bit of I did a bit of research. Like, okay, how does this person, like, I wasn't pitching to the hypnotherapist, I was pitching to the business partner. So I was like, okay, my first question was, when I was invited to pitch, I was like, how does he process information? And they were like, what do you mean? Like, how does he process information? Is he data driven? Is he storytelling? How does he work? Should we let them in, Abby? We've got Johnny, yeah, let them in. Okay. I should let them in. Okay, in an open office, got it. No problem. And so they told me he's very data driven and he loves stories. Okay, so and this is a guy, by the way, I'm sure you'll come across them, like, you're not going to get in his diaries for weeks. Like, he just won't have time for you, and I got in his diary within 24 hours. So I really knew that a very short amount of time to speak his language. And so what's important, what I'm getting at here, and I'll tell you how I did it, is do the research to the person or the audience that you're speaking in front of, and understand when you do your scoping questions about speaking, pitching, who's in the room, who likes, how do they process information? Because if you've got a room full of analysts, you need to talk analyst language. There's no point going on emotional and things like that. You need to give them the stats. So that's what I did with this guy. We got on a call and I said, look, here's the deal. Most people that want a high-paid speaking gigs should spend an hour a day looking for those opportunities and building relationships. The average speaker spends 20 minutes a week. Therefore, most speakers never land the speaking opportunities they want because they're not got the time or investing the time to get the speaking opportunities they need. And that's how I started the talk. And he's like, okay, tell me more. This is a pitch to him. And it's like, oh, I've got his attention. And then I said, the other thing I did is I went, okay, then. So what I want you to imagine is we take away the whole finding gigs, and there's people from your company telling your story, extending your brand. Imagine your best student standing on stage talking about your strategies and your Imagine that for 1 second. And I could see him, he went quiet, telling your story, purposely using stuff. He's like, okay, I'm interested. Let's talk. And then he invited me to put a proposal in, and this all happened really quickly. And the person that got me she couldn't believe it. She's like, I can't believe it's happened so quickly. I can't believe you wanted a proposal. The reason I'm telling you that is because when we do a bit of research, then we understand the language to utilize for us to show up confidently, right? What do we do? A lot of us, maybe not here, people in the room, right? But what do? Is we have our pitch or our talk, right? And we show up because it's worked for one audience. What's really important with language that lands is to understand the type of language that you would use. And I know for some you're like, but that's so obvious. But when we're speaking or pitching or even comes to asking for our fee, if we haven't built the right rapport, if we haven't entered their world through the language we use, then it breaks the relationship down. So I've worked with a few creative agencies now from here, and the one thing we've worked on is stop being so technical. Like, stop talking marketing language if you want to win the business, unless you're speaking to a marketing director, right? Because a lot of you live in this every single day, so it's so natural for you to speak that way. But for the person buying, for the buyer, the potential audience, if you're using speaking to up your profile or extend your brand, you must make it easy for me to process the information. You know who's a genius at this? Steve Jobs. He took the mega complicated and made it so simple that you just were like, wow, okay, I understand that, but I don't understand that. Look at the iPod. No one knew what an iPad did when it first came out, yet everyone bought one. Like, they didn't know what the iPad did when it came out. Because Steve Jobs was so good at simplifying things linguistically, he was such a great salesman. So, while I'm not giving you like, use these words and use these words, it lies in the research you do in front of who you're speaking, pitching, and presenting in front of. That's the key here when it comes to language that lands. That's really what's important. And be adaptable, be agile with it. Because if you've just got that one pitch and you walk in doing that one pitch every single time, you're probably leaving money on the table. If you're doing that one talk and not adapting it to the audience, you're probably isolating people. And that's from over a decade of doing talks. I remember one time years ago when I was just starting out, I didn't do the scope. I didn't ask who's the audience, what level. Even the point is, what's the earning capacity in the room? I did a talk in London, and my original talk was designed for people wanting to start a business. And I walked into this room. I started my talk, and I was like, "How many here are business owners?" Thinking only a few hands, and pretty much all the hands went up. At that moment, I was a bit lost. This is the beginning of my speaking life, right? I was like, oh my God, my whole talk's gone out the window in this moment because it's designed for people that want to launch businesses. So I was a bit like, oh, and even the guy that booked me could see I was a bit stumped by that because I didn't ask at the time, never again. So that's what I mean, because then I wasn't speaking their language. So do the research, do the scoping, then review your presentation, your talk, and adapt the language so it becomes a bridge towards them feeling you, connecting with you, wanting to work with you, versus it becoming an isolative aspect. Have you all seen those talks when the person just stands up and speak and you're like, what did he just say? I don't get, like, I know this when I go sometimes to tech talks, Steve, and I'm like, I don't understand a word they just said. Right, I just don't get it. Yet the people in the audience are like, yeah, that's true. Oh my God, they're like, oh my God, that's so, yeah, and they're like, wow, that's amazing. I'm like, what did he even say? That's because they catered for the audience. Now, if you take that same kind of presentation to a non-techie audience in that space, they've isolated most of the audience. So that's the importance here with language that lands. Yeah. So just to quickly recap, how are we doing? Do you have any questions for me? Because I know we're kind of heading towards wrapping up now. I've got 3 minutes. So any questions quickly for me? No?
Elliot, I've got one.
Yes.
That's okay. You, I've noticed that when you're doing your presentation here in your talk, you get the audience, as it were, to get to be active and answer where they can, and then you give examples using these people as well. Is that a key tool that you use in every talk you do, or is it just tailored to the audience?
I pretty much try and pull people in because people buy in if they're engaged, right? The other thing is I don't want you to flip into listener mode, sit back, even unconsciously go, I'm just listening to him now, right? Because again, then you become passive, and then it's almost like I might as well be a teacher. So what I want, every few slides or every few minutes, I want to pull people in whether it's just a yes, whether it's how are we, like just to keep it engaged. And I do that with every talk. Unless I'm instructed not to, please don't engage them. Then I won't. But mostly, I mean, the ones I won't probably do that is in schools. But that's a different reason why. But yeah, does that answer your question, Eric? I'm pitching on awards panel tomorrow, except I don't know who they are. Oh, there you go. Where do you go with the language on something like that? So you have I guess you got contact in there, Helen, right? So just go, look, can I just find out who's in the panel, please? Even if you just get their names, go on LinkedIn, read their posts. How do they speak, right? Are they do they tell a lot of stories, or do they drop lots of stats? And just spend a little time doing that research, and even ask them, what do they like? What don't they like? If they're happy to tell you. Another one to use, Helen, and this goes for everybody, is to go, what really worked last year, right? What really got their attention last year? And that's, I don't know if it was existing last year, but those kind of questions will always give you an insight into the how. At the end of the day, Helen, you still need to show up and be yourself, right? Be authentically you. But yeah, you can adapt the language so it lands. There's this thing called PCM, which talks about the 6 different types of avatars we have within an audience. But that's how you win presidential elections, things like that. That's a whole different topic for another time. It's really like, if you Google PCM communication, you'll see the 6 different archetypes as well. So when you're going for those kinds of things, Helen, or everybody, you really want to try and appeal to as many of those processing communication languages as you can. But does that answer your question? Perfect. All right. That is pretty much it from me. I think we're on time. I put the website for the gig getters up there, and I've also put my Calendly in there. If you want to talk to me about, just have a conversation. It doesn't have to be about working with me. If I can, as I said, signpost you, help you, drop some nuggets, maybe, I don't know, can't promise that part, then feel free to book in a call with me, and then we can go from there. But did you guys have some insight, value? Have you got some takeaways? Yeah? Perfect. You're very welcome, every single one of you. Over to you, Dan.
Nice one. Thanks, Elliot. Thanks for that. Hope everyone enjoyed that. As I said, we'll take the recording, we'll chop it up. And anyone who wants to watch it back, just drop Abby or I a DM in the community, and we can share the link with you.